Hi, this is Ira Gorlick, and welcome to the next series of lectures on net neutrality. In these lectures, I'm going to focus on economics, political science, and religion, and you'll see why in a second. Our thinking about how the world does work carries with it an inherent notion of how the world should work. As a result, in addition to our economic studies, our studies will include political science, religion, and social studies. My learning objective here for this entire class, and this series of lectures in particular, is be able to describe the optimum role of the community in managing commerce in general and the internet in specific. So I hope from a learning objective that at the end of this we'll be able to understand the economic, political, and religious theories that could help us figure out the optimum role of the community in commerce. I'm also going to try to understand the differences between the economic thinking in the early part of the 20th century, since that's when most of the telecommunications laws were first built, and our economic thinking today. My intent in this section is to have a reasoned discussion about the role of the community in commerce. I know that some of the things I believe are wrong. I just don't know which ones. But I want to learn which ones. And the way I discover which things are wrong is to articulate to the best of my ability what I believe as clearly as possible, and then listen respectfully to others' disagreements. I personally would rather find out that what I believe is wrong now than continue to believe it and continue to talk about it as if it's right. So my request to you in this class is that if you see something that I got wrong, please let me in the class know. As I talked about before, there is a learning process. So I've identified the steps of the learning process in this way. Is first set a learning objective. My learning objective is to try to figure out the optimal role of the community in setting the guidelines for the internet net neutrality. In order to do that, I need to understand as much as possible about the things that I want to learn. So in this case, I want to learn about economics. I've talked a little about technology before. I want to learn about economics, and then in the next series of lecture we'll learn about telecommunications law. But in the process I also want to learn as much as I can about myself, including my biases. I have two rules for this class. First is no personal ad hominem, as we call them, attacks. Here's an example. This I got out of the Mises.org. There was an article written that says, essentially, Say's law is a stern and proper response to the various economic ignoramuses. I see that as a personal attack. I see that as an ad hominem attack. There's no reason to call somebody an ignoramus. It doesn't help your argument, and it just is a personal attack. The other rule I have is to give others respect. If you disagree with their conclusions, either explain why their conclusions are wrong or provide alternative conclusions. If I say something wrong, just tell me why it's wrong. Tell me how I've missed something and why that conclusion is wrong. And I will respect that, and I will respect you if we disagree. So the key question is, how do we decide what is the role of government? So we're going to look at what philosophy, criteria, or methodology we can use to help answer this question. Let me tell you what I believe, and this goes to understanding my biases so you know where I come from. First of all, I think net neutrality should be optimally regulated. Optimally for me means a little regulation, very little regulation, but it does require some regulation. Specifically, I want to see transparency required. So how did I get to this answer? I believe free markets are good, but there are bad actors that could hurt the free market. Minimally carefully crafted rules are necessary for an optimum functioning market. Rules set standards of good behavior so that good actors know what good behavior is. Rules should meet three tests. They should be narrowly crafted, they should address a community interest, and they should achieve the goal. If there is transparency, then the market can decide what to do. I think setting penalties for violating the standards of good behavior commensurate with the harm violating the standard does to the community. The intent of this class is to articulate why I believe this, and to ask for you to tell me if my conclusions are correct or not. and if you think they are not correct, to tell me why so I can change to the correct conclusions. Giving an outline of how this class is going to be structured, I'm going to go into definitions like commerce, community, government, and rational actors. I'm then going to spend a lot of time on specific terms like information, supply and demand, natural monopoly, moral hazard, and such. And finally, I'm going to go over different schools of economic thought like classical and Austrian, Keynesian, and Marxian. Thank you very much, and in the next series of lecture, I'll go over the introduction to this class.